everyone, and welcome to the end of the year, New Year's, not quite yet special with me, Heidi Love, and I'm back with Ben McClintock. How are you today?
Fantastic. So glad to be back with you.
I'm glad to have you, and you are hot off the presses with your new book, and boy, is this is a great one. This is great timing too, right? With
Yeah.
all the new changes in the world there.
Yeah. Lots
Oh
of just
boy.
amazing how it just go boom, 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 right?
Oh, isn't it? Isn't that strange? I'm like, that seems very weird. Like, what's going on with that? I
Seems
don't
to hit in
know.
waves.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm like, oh, he's gone now. That's very strange. He was a problem and now he's gone. Oh, no, just kidding. Of course, we're talking about Holland. So if you guys
Yeah.
missed that one, yeah. Meh. Oh, so tell me a little bit about you for the people that missed our last one, just so that they can know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. The last video that we did together, I put it on my channel and I got a comment. It was like, they were kind of upset that we weren't being so soft pedaled about the LDS church. And so I was just like, it's her channel. She can talk about whatever she wants. I was just reposting it.
You're like, I
And
mean, it is what it is, right? It's not, I mean, I get it. I get where people are coming from too. And you're like, well, it's not me. I'm not doing it,
it can
So,
be hard, and that's what I always try
yeah.
to say. I'm not trying to destroy testimonies. This is about data, and we can go from there. But what we do at the Tree of Liberty Society is we help to build understanding and application of the principles that have built free societies, looking at natural law, just looking at history. How did we go from tyranny to liberty over and over again, and applying those principles? Also, something that makes us really different than a lot of folks is that we understand and we recognize and we document that there is a conspiracy, that the move towards tyranny isn't on accident. I don't believe in the accidental theory of history. We document that we face an actual conspiracy that is evil and that is working to enslave mankind. And so, as an organization, we work to be able to expose those things, and so that we can be more effective, because too often when we don't realize the enemy that we're facing is an arsonist starting fires, we focus on fires instead of the arsonist, and that's a waste of time and resources. And we've got to focus and get that focus real narrow. And so we produce books. I have a book called Invasion, which documents how the conspiracy has infiltrated local communities, using Utah and Mormonism as the case study, and how that applies everywhere. And we've also recently produced a book called The Righteous Sword Against Tyranny, which is a reprint of a 1600s book that goes through and identifies what is a tyrant, what are the definitions of a tyrant, not just these platitudes of kind of like, right, everyone I don't like is Hitler, everyone I don't like is a tyrant. No, that's not what it is. This defines what a tyrant is and what the responsible Christian does in response to a tyrant. And then this one that we're just talking about today was just released, called The Intelligence Report of Dallin H Oaks. And so we can kind of get into what that is.
Oh boy, Dallin, you were a busy boy in Chicago. You know, let's
Isn't that
just
weird that we
say
got
that
you
I
got you got
I think it's
Obama, you got Dallin
interesting.
H Oaks, you got Mike Lee. Mike Lee and Obama went to the same law school in Chicago, so it's pretty wild that we have these intersections there in Chicago.
And also, we've got a current pope from Chicago,
And then
which I
Pope from
find
Chicago, yeah.
fascinating, right? Like all of these guys all at once. And I'm like, oh, and the University of Chicago. And, they had something called Owl and Snake. Did you know about this?
I remember it being referenced. I don't know much about Owl and Snake specifically.
That's because it's on the DL bad, and you can't even get a list of who was in this sucker, but I will tell you, it was active and alive when he was there during his years, and
Interesting.
so I always wonder, Alan Key, Alan Snake, I mean, come on, a little off the
Yeah, well, it's
cuff.
like the Alfalfa Club that we talked about last time, and how hard it is to find info on them, besides the typical, they're just celebrating Robert E. Lee's birthday. Like, come on, give me a
Mm.
break.
Yeah, no, that's all they're doing, don't worry about it, and Obama likes to go.
Yeah, oh
Obama
yeah.
wants to be there, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That just seems silly to me. I just think that, when we're tearing down the statues and the Confederate flag and saying, no, 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 but we're having dinner.
Yeah.
What? Why? What is happening?
Yeah,
And I'm
Mike,
not, look,
what's his name? Mitt
not.
Romney was
Yeah.
in favor of what Antifa was doing, but he's the president of an organization whose only job is supposedly to celebrate Robert E's birthday. But something not, the mathin's not mathin'.
Exactly. And when that doesn't happen, we always have to go, And whether, we like stances on certain things, here's what we bring together as two very opposite sides of spectrum, because he was just saying, his listeners were weird about me because I say certain things about the church. And my listeners are probably like, why does he believe in that still? Look, we're not here to talk about that.
Doesn't he know
we're
how to
gonna try
read? I mean,
not
it's,
to do
it's
that.
obvious. What is he, stupid? Yeah.
Right. And so we've got to look at just these things that corrupted. This is more about LDS Inc. than LDS theology. That is a whole nother thing that you can catch plenty of videos on my channel or whatever. Or
Yeah.
if you want to go his way on his, it's just not something we have to deal with, really. What we do have to deal with is corruption.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact, So in a sunlit
Well, it's
land.
important to understand why somebody does something.
Right.
Because if we don't understand, we will make, there's these QAnon, Mormon QAnon channels that just drive me crazy, because they'll make these connections that just they have to make these leaps to explain away certain things, right? It's trust the plan type stuff, instead of just saying, we can still, like myself, I can still believe with recognizing that individuals do things that we don't like.
Right. And it's really not, I'm going to try my best when me and Ben get together not to go theology there, because I don't want to upset your viewers either. And, we're trying to bring to you something else. What we're focusing on is so much more important. And that's something we're going to call for this channel or whatever. And I like it. It's, Justin kind of coined it, or he got it from somebody, LDS Inc. Right. LDS
He got that
Inc.
from me. He
got that from you. I love it. Okay, then. So we don't want to come at the church. We're coming at the corruption, like you said. And clearly from you, it even screams more, because from you, you're a believer. Why would you attack that? Like it actually is more honest. Like, because for me, they're going to be like, that anti-Mormon lady, but from you, you're just like, hey, this is just documents.
Right.
Like, what do you do with that? We have to deal with it. We can't just put our heads in the sand. We could. It gets people nowhere. Yeah. Gets people shot and shoved out a window. That's what it gets. But anyway,
and this book, it's the intelligence report on Dallin H Oaks. It's not an anti-Mormon book, and it's not a pro-Mormon book. You've been able to go through it, and
facts.
You wouldn't say it's either one, right? Not anti, not pro. So
it's
I think
just
anybody
facts.
from any background could appreciate the information of this book.
Yes, absolutely. And when we're talking about facts, that's all it is. And so for people that don't even know who this is, because I have quite a few followers that, just don't know a whole ton about the Mormon church, let's just do a little brief synopsis on Dallin H Oaks. Like, who is Dallin H Oaks?
Oh, you're asking me? I thought you were going to do it in the background.
Yes. Sorry.
So currently he is the head of the Church of the Corporation, known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He has been he was a member of the 12 for right around the death of Spencer W. Kimball, and prior to that he was the president of BYU, and prior to that he was he was the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court, and before that he practiced law and went to law school at the University of Chicago. So that's real brief overview of Dallin H Oaks.
And Harris, there we go. While he was doing all these fun things, I did find it fascinating that he got his place as the Chief Justice, Supreme Court. He didn't really have quite the resume to do that, as far as what I know. Anyway,
well, that's
I
the
thought
same
he
thing
was
with Mike Lee.
new.
Mike Lee started to work for the Supreme Court immediately after law school, which is not normal either.
Not done. Yep, not done. That means you know somebody, right? Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody. So, it's one of those things where we just kind of step back and go, okay, I don't know. What do you do with that? So, and this book is more focused around his time where I'll let you tell a little bit about this.
Well, especially early on, his time in Chicago, because that's really important. And just kind of a little bit of background. Right now, he's seen as, especially if you look in the Exmo community, he is seen as this ultra right-wing, anti-gay, hardliner guy. But to me, he's more like the idea of, if you're a Star Trek nerd, in Star Trek, it talks about only Nixon could go to China. That's a quote from that, because Nixon was seen as
Right.
this anti-communist. And if like Lyndon B. Johnson went to China, he would have been seen as being soft on communism. And so Nixon could go because he was seen as being a staunch anti-communist. And so
Right.
it's, to me, it's very
Right.
similar to that idea of he's being this character that he's being promoted as being this staunch hardliner, is a character. And that, I think this book documents that it is a character, and that is not actually who he is. His
Right.
history throughout his younger years, his history as a Supreme Court justice, and then also his time in the Quorum of the 12, his fruits versus words, right? What does the Lord tell us to judge people by? Not their words, their fruits. So his actions are the opposite of what the character being created by especially the ex. I don't see it as much being promoted in the apologist community, but he's really shown in the Exmo community as being this staunch anti-gay personality. And so,
Yes.
but that is a
Exactly.
character, not a reality.
Right. But we still have to look at it. I mean, Dallin H Oaks, interestingly enough, left BYU, or did he get shoved out a window? Just kidding. I mean, that's like my little joke for him. But no, he did get shoved away from that position. I will tell you that right now. Right. I mean, he had quite a little scandal there.
Oh, you mean with like
And
the what's it called? The conversion therapy stuff?
electrocuting. Yeah,
Oh, right.
electrocuting people. Yeah, conversion therapy. He was electrocuting people to try and help them ungay. Uh, Also, he was doing a lot of recruiting for three-letter agencies, which people know happens in every one of Utah's
Right.
freaking places ever now. I don't think that's just him, but there was kind of a scandal about that, and
I
that's
think
the
that
things.
scandal goes
Yeah,
more towards that direction as opposed to him being staunchly um,
anti.
anti-gay. Yeah.
Yeah, just the electrocution thing was like, "What?" I mean, I
Right.
get it. It was like old-timey stuff, but still, whoa. Um, like, okay, how much electricity are we talking here, bro? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
But for sure, way interesting stuff he's involved in. Definitely recruitment. Recruitment was the big focus, I think, that got him in trouble, because it wasn't a little bit, right? He's like, "Here's a whole batch of new kids," like, "Ah," you know?
Well,
And
and
he
there's
was kinda.
there's multiple reasons that you can say, that can be behind that, right? Because that definitely helps the organization to be able to have influence in different areas, and so they're going to definitely want to put their people in positions of power, and it makes them, you go back to especially Heber J. Grant is where that change comes from, being staunchly, John Taylor, I defy the United States, to Heber J. Grant, how many boots can I lick? Um, you have this, becoming good American citizens to today being good global citizens. You definitely has a part to play in that, of making friends with the federal government.
Right, right, exactly. So we have to look at the whole situation and say, why did that happen? Like, why did the LDS become the government's next three-letter agency? It really did. Oh my gosh. And it's true. Why do you think that happened?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
I think it traces back um, to Heber J. Grant, where he promises the head of the Federal Reserve that, the complete obedience of the people of Utah if they just bring us a branch of the Federal Reserve. And so that, and then you have this idea before Grant of persecution is a badge of honor, whereas Heber J. Grant said it was a great, one of his most proud moments in leadership of the church was when all the persecution went away and we could be friends with the world. And so it
Yes.
really, to me, it really starts to come from that, and then it translates even more so. Each president afterwards has this different programs to be able to bring in the government into friendship with the church, where you've got David O. McKay being chummy with JFK, and
Yes.
and you mentioned our last podcast about the book Presidents and Prophets, and how
Yes.
they all work to get, even they brought basically they've gotten genealogy reports to every single president of the United States for the last 50 years, and just different things like that. Definitely trying different programs, being chummy with or going along with the different programs.
Yes. So what do you think, as far as your book, is your most focus for Mr. Dallin H Oaks? What do you think is your most number one point? I don't want to give the whole book away, but I want to tease them a little bit, right? Like we want to tell these people why
Yeah.
he matters. Of course, he's the prophet, but other than that.
Other than well, I think that's why you would care. But his history, going back to as he just gets out of law school, he is an agent with what has he made? The law clerk for Chief Justice Earl Warren, right out of law school. And Chief Justice Earl Warren is, frankly, a staunch communist, where 90-something% of the time he sided with the Communist Party. And in fact, the Communist Party regularly said, hey, promoted Earl Warren, said we want to make him a head of the Warren Commission in the JFK assassination. There were several different huge cases that Earl Warren sided with that said that allowed really subversives, people that were against the Constitution of the Founding Fathers, to be able to give communism a major foothold in the United States, especially during a time where you had the Cold War and the Big Red Menace. But so you have this idea of how not the idea, but you have this one vote, for example. You have Yates versus the United States in 1958, where he ruled that it was legal to advocate and teach and conspire with others for the overthrow of the government of the United States by force and violence, so long as the future date of the revolution is not fixed. That's legal now under that under that ruling. Whereas if I were to say right now, like, I think the United States government is tyrannical and I think it should be overthrown by violence, if I were to say that, I wouldn't need a date. That would just be, I would be in jail. I mean, it's
Right.
but
Right.
but because of Earl Warren, who was basically the first protege of Dallin H Oaks, that is now legal as long as the communists don't have a date affixed to their violent revolution.
Right.
And that's just crazy.
It's just very concerning. And we know that we have under Brigham Young, we've got, Carl Mazer, who, funny enough, held the same title as Dallin H Oaks, right? He was the first principal of the BYU school. And, he studied under Christian Tragot Otto, who is very interesting because he directly studied under like a Marxist type regime, literal.
Yeah.
And then they bring him here. They bring Mazer here. And who is Mazer? That's Peter Till's great uncle. What? Like, that is almost unbelievable. When somebody told me that, and shout out Meow, she's on Twitter, right? Like, Meow Lion, it's hard to say. But when she said that, I thought, oh my gosh, this can't be true. Like, this has to be, and people were like, oh, that's just from internet stuff. And it's not true. I found the book. I love Utah because Utah people will sell those old books and you can go get them. 1927 book, autobiography of Carl Mazer. I bought it. It's there. I don't know what to say about that. Like this, I'm like, what were you doing? Like, why did you do this? Like,
right.
I mean, I don't agree with everything Joseph Smith did, but I've been presented this question before. You have two choices, Brigham Young's church or Joseph Smith's church. Which one are you going to, Ben?
See, and my perspective is there isn't, that Brigham Young was the one that continued it. And so the others, were the ones that changed it. But that's a theological perspective that would be different.
The church that changed, I guess, like underneath him. Basically, I think Joseph was woo-woo. Okay, sure. That's fine. But Joseph also really believed in what he said. I've never once ever said that I doubted what he saw. I don't.
Mhm.
I never once said I doubted that any of the stuff he said, okay? Like, I really don't. And people have a hard time with that in the community because they want me to say he ate mushrooms and is crazy. And I'm like, well, he might have ate mushrooms, but I think he was doing something, like, and and so
Or he was
like
just
I think
dumb and made stuff up or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
he's not dumb. Yeah, that one upsets me probably the most out of everything we ever hear because he is literally studying with the Seixas, Seixas, and that guy is actually so imperative. The guy he's learning Hebrew from, that
Mhm.
founding family is in with the president, and he's the one that gave the actual first prayer of Thanksgiving. And I'm like, this cannot just be chucked out. Like Joseph Smith was part of the Mayflower. He's related to 7 people on the Mayflower, like period. Like
Mhm.
the one that fell overboard. I can't remember the other ones right now, but he could be part of the Mayflower, society, which is also another society that's very interesting. And the Rosicrucians come into play and all these things. I don't not believe Joseph. I want to put
Mhm.
that out there. I actually do believe Joseph a little too much for most people's take, right? Like they're like, this girl is just crazy. I don't know what to do with her. But like Brigham, I feel like either he was not paying attention. I mean, he did have like 50 wives. Like, I don't know. Maybe he was busy, like, geez,
Mhm.
Louise, I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't even deal with 2. Like, and I'm a girl, like I'm telling the
Mhm.
truth here. Let's be honest. But it's just crazy to me that we see this infiltration take place. And John Witso, in his book, Under a Sunlit Land, he tried. I bought the book. He didn't just say the one that we know Justin talks about. And I love Justin for exposing it because he's the whole reason why I bought the book. He tried. He really, honestly, in a meek and mild mannered, polite way, he tried to sound the alarm and nobody listened.
Mhm.
And Joseph Smith himself was down. Have you ever read the Book of Mormon, people? Like I did, like a lot, How many times does he say secret combinations in the Book of Mormon?
Yeah, I think non-Mormons or would be very beneficial to read the Book of Mormon just to be able to understand where we're coming from, if nothing
Yes,
else.
because it matters. It matters, right?
Right.
Context matters. All this stuff matters. Like we can't just say, "Oh, that's just silly." And Joseph was a high, stupid young boy. No, he wasn't.
Right.
His mom, that Mac family is seriously influential. It goes influential into the future. Crazy. I mean, they go on to discover like, parts of Michigan. It's a whole thing. I'm doing a whole breakdown of it really soon, you guys. He
Mm.
goes on to actually he founded Pontiac, Michigan. I was on a podcast last night with your friends
Yeah,
and Jesse James show. We talked about this, and I didn't know they were from that area, and it was just like this weird happenstance, and it was great.
that's cool.
But yeah, I was like, oh, guess what? And they were like, guess what? And I was like, oh, that's crazy. So, you
Yeah.
just never know what's going to align, but it really did. And I'm like, okay, well, there we have it. There's obviously things going on here, not
Right.
just from the Smiths, but from the Macs. And these are influential people. These are the Mayflower people. Like, people have to understand why people came here, also a
Yeah.
secret society. The Rosicrucians agenda was in on that society. And, different people were in the know and other people weren't, you know, that's just how it is in every
Mhm.
secret society, even if they belong, right?
Right. Right.
You have to have those porch masons or you look real guilty. That's all. So, yeah. And so as far as Dallin goes, he ended up, mixed in with some very shady characters. I mentioned one before we went live, and
Yeah.
it's JJ's favorite, Cocaine Bob. Cocaine Bob Evans. Oh, Cocaine Bob. I don't know what you're doing over. Actually, I do, but
You don't get
whoa.
nicknames for nothing, right?
I love his nickname. Holy moly, right? And I mean, I'm sure he's a treasure trove if you want to tap in there. Oh
No, I don't have a
boy.
lot on him, but one of his major proteges was Edward H. Levi at the
Mm.
University of Utah. He was the dean of the law school, and he was a major subversive communist at the university. Like, and this is all like documented in um, uh, Senate committees and different reports that have come out that actually talk about that. So it's just how do we have it to this guy over and over and over again having subversive communists as his direct supervisors, proteges, and that kind of a thing. And he ends up being listed as a guy that is basically, I don't know, I can't remember the word that is used for it. I always have blank on this word, but oh, right here it is. He is the preceptor, the teacher or the tutor on of young communist groups at the University of Chicago. And that's not a professor. This is Oaks is the preceptor at the University of Chicago over these kids and their communist groups with the Communist Party USA. And so, this, and so some people, like when we talked about Nelson and Skull and Bones, people would say, well, that was when his youth, and maybe when he grew up, he didn't do those types of things. But when he goes on to to be in the Supreme Court of the state of Utah, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Utah, he actually promotes or he sides with and he settles cases that are promoting major key implementation of the Communist Manifesto, namely the destruction of private property. Yes. And so you have those types of things. And so this report, a little bit of background, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself too much, because this report itself, where did it come from? And so it's anonymously written. The report itself is anonymously written. I came across it 25 something years ago and just went through it, and there's no author to it. Justin and I both did a deep dive trying to find out who the author could have been. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, right? Give credit where credit's due. Yeah, and yes. We asked AI, like, who does this sound like, or do you have, is there access to somewhere where this was published before? So this has never been published before, but it was written back during the late 70s, before he was a member of the 12. And so, but it was anonymously written, and I came across it, and it's kind of hard, like nobody else but online, everything that I've seen online traces back to stuff that I've done in the past. And so it was one of these things that was just passed around, photocopies of photocopies of photocopies amongst Latter-day Saint circles during the 80s, especially when he became a member of the 12. And so, but like the author, it's suspected was somebody that had to do with Cleon Skousen's Freeman Institute, just because it does focus so much on Latter-day Saint terminologies. But basically, they shut it up as soon as he becomes a member of the 12, and those types of groups don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. And so when I came across it originally, 25 something years ago, and I said, okay, this is very interesting, very much so. Accusations against Dallin H Oaks. Is there any way that, but the thing with the original report was there were no footnotes. There were no, like, this is where, I got this information, or, that kind of a thing. And so for the past decade or so, I've been going through and finding, anything that I can. Is it all verifiable? Is only a certain small portion of it verifiable? And wanted to get actual source documents for all of the claims made within the original report. And so, and then after that, what we've done with this edition is we've said, okay, well, what has he done since he left BYU? And so we've added the time that he was things that are similar, that show his continued ties of what he was involved with as a youth at Chicago and whatnot, and youth meaning, in his 20s and 30s. And what did he do as the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court? What has he done as a member of the 12, and added more information that's not just in the original report from the 70s, but showing this is not something that he stopped being involved with. This is not but involved with. This is something that he's continued to be engaged in to this day. So when he's at BYU and he says Black Lives Matter is an eternal principle, why would he say a thing like that? Well, because he has ties to these subversive communist organizations going back to Earl Warren's days.
Right. And Skousen's interesting, isn't he? I kind of feel like he tried to and they really didn't like it, you know?
I go back
I
and
mean,
forth.
they're
I've got my
he
suspicions.
went
I
well,
don't.
he went back and forth. This is why,
That's fair
right? At
enough.
some point, yeah, he really tried and then he kinda subverted and it wasn't as good, and
And you've
I don't
mentioned how he
know.
was funded by the Moonies.
Exactly, and it makes me sad because I'm like, well, he tried and then what happened, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know what happened, but we know the funding, so we follow the money.
Because there's stories I
Um,
love, like when he was chief of police in Salt Lake and he busts the mayor, J. Bracken Lee, for
yes,
being involved in illegal behavior. And so they fire him. And so all of what do all Cleon Skousen's supporters do? They go to J. Bracken Lee's house and they light a cross on fire on his lawn. And so like I'm
yeah,
like, whoa, there are boomers that are, hardcore that
right,
would
yeah,
actually, do stuff that was
exactly.
not crazy. I mean, that's not just like being
Yeah.
passive is what I mean. They're not just a bunch of, hey, let's write a sternly written letter. No, they actually said, hey, you're corrupt and you need to be held accountable for it. And I love that kind of stuff.
Yes. Well, yeah, because look at what has happened when, and I mentioned this before we went live. What do weak men make? What do strong
Yeah.
men make? It's always the same story. And what does absolute power make? It's
Right.
scary. That is terrifying to me to know.
Right.
I mean, honestly, like even studying, and I told you I've been studying the Mac family, even to watch what the progression is from the beginning of the Macs, which they were very influential, to
Mm-hmm.
even now flowing in to Rear Admiral Stephen G. Mack. Oh, who is he? Oh, Commander Submarines of NATO and Director of Maritime Operations for Naval Forces in Europe and Africa. Welcome, family of Joseph Smith's mother, the Max. Like, come on. Like, well, it may have been father, but because that's her married. I don't know. But well, no, it would have been mother. So, anyways, we don't know what is happening. We do know that guy is completely related down that line. And you have to wonder, let alone the Gates connections, which they try to say isn't true, but it is. We found it. And they will first, if you Google, is Bill Gates related to Joseph Smith? They'll say, no, 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 no. Go find his dad. Go to Daniel Deacon Gates, who is Lucy's dad, and it'll link up. It'll finally tell you the truth, right? It'll
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh yeah, because Daniel Deacon Gates is kind of a good name. Okay, it's a good person to be related to, and so then of course they're like, oh yes, he's related to that guy, but not the other guy. What are you talking about? I'm like, okay, that's fun. But, we have to get sneaky, right? In our
That's so
research.
weird too.
Like,
Is like, why would you hide that? Because you would think they would just go he's just a black sheep, or we're all related to people that we don't
right.
like, that kind of a thing.
Right. Why did they do that with his freaking grandpa? And they didn't grow up in Palmyra as poor farmers. No, these were people that were the Sons of Liberty. They were the Sons of Liberty. Joseph's grandparents are involved in the Boston Tea Party and they're just shoving it under the rug with as patriotic as LDS people are. Why? Why would
Mm-hmm.
you do that? Well, then you look one generation back and you got the other dad, another grandpa who's got the same name. He's involved in the Inquisition and the hanging of Mary Duty with the Salem witch trials. So I'm assuming it's that. I mean, I don't know their mind, but like, is it that? I don't know. He did put the nail in her coffin. And you know what she said? I'm coming for you. And you know what day they hung her? the day the day they hung her was the same day Joseph Smith later found the plates hundreds of years later. That's pretty weird. That one's good. And you can't argue with the dates, but it's like,
Sure.
is that just weird synchronicity or did she like I don't know. That was weird, Is she trying
Yeah.
to help him? She's trying to hurt him? I don't know what's happening over there. But obviously some ghosty stuff, like
Pretty
cool.
wild. Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just strange to me that they would obfuscate all the good though. Like you said, we can't hide who we're related to. I got some nuts in my, bag. Like who cares? I'll put them on front. I put them on the front page because you know what? It's easier to say, yep, my grandpa was a 1% biker and my uncle was a sundowner. If you want to meet some crazy people, they were crazy people, best people I ever knew. Were they the best people everyone knew? No. You
Right.
know, they just loved me an awful lot. So, you just put that out there and that way you can just deal with it. But then
Right.
they erased the history of the good. They did good things.
It's
too.
always the hiding that makes things worse, right? Same with like right the
Right.
Watergate. It was the cover up that was the crime, not the actual crime.
Yes. And it makes me upset because I'm like, well, I just don't understand why you would erase all of this good stuff for this one slight, right? Like this is a
Right.
slight thing. I mean, no, a death isn't slight, but he wasn't the only one. Okay. Like there's a lot of shenanigans going on back then. Okay. We'll just put it that way. And he wasn't the only one there at her trial. He wasn't the only one in general. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this seems a lot to hide. It makes me a little sad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
If I heard that story as a Mormon, like when I was all the way, even now when I read it, I was like, that's kind of badass a little bit. Like what? His grandpa helped organize the Boston Tea Party. Like, what are you talking about? That's insane.
Yeah.
Captain Samuel Smith for anybody that wants to check it out. Not the elder Samuel Smith, not a captain. He was born in 1666 for anybody that wants to like differentiate the two because it does get confusing because they have the same name. So there's that. They're from Salem, Massachusetts. They're from Topsfield is what they call it back then, but it's Salem. And so why do they erase everything? Like that's so unjust to all of them,
Yeah.
honestly, you know? And I think that happens with all of this. But like you said, if they don't like something, what do they do with it? They hide it all.
Yep.
Just like you've been in trouble. You freaking true blue believe. And because you told the truth, you're in trouble. That's also crap to me. That's crap to me. I've advocated for 2 people ever to be in the Mormon church. No, 3, because I advocate for Justin also. 3, you should never be kicked out of the church for if you truly believe. If they disagree with something you said, we all have our own opinions and stuff, but you can prove that yours is just a bunch of declassified stuff. It's not even yours. Like
Right.
you just went, look, that's not what? Why would they do that when you totally believe you would go to bat for the church and have?
And
You know?
when it's
Yeah.
it's when it's correct principle, I will definitely defend anybody doing something correct principle, and when it's
Yes.
violates correct principle, then I have to stand up for it. Otherwise, I'm dishonest. It's just the way it is.
You mean they taught you to be an honest man and you do? Okay. All right. That's sad. You know what? And I've advocated for people to be able to be LDS on my channel because I think people should be able to be whatever they want. We have freedom of religion in this country. And I don't think they should be able to do that to people for no reason. If you didn't do a sin, right? That's not, you sustained the people that, all the things like you can disagree with what they do, and still be like, well, I understand this is who you chose. We do that with our government all the time. I mean, we do, we say,
Lots
oh,
of
I don't
leaders.
like
Yeah,
this.
can you imagine
Yeah.
being kicked out of a country if you didn't support the leaders?
Or you support the leader, but you don't like this one thing he did or that one thing he did. Right.
Right.
Like, well, you're not really saying anything different than that. And that's just
Right.
silly. To me, that's silly. So, but this thing with Oaks goes deep and, him being in Chicago is critical. We do have like Strangites really close to there. It makes me wonder, like, what's going on with the Halcyon Illuminati over there? Like,
Yeah, it's
was he
pretty weird.
chatting with them? Yeah, I mean, he's right
Yeah.
there. Yeah. I know we can't know, but like, interesting
It'd be.
then.
I
I
mean,
mean,
sometimes documents get leaked. If anybody's got anything, we'd love to.
we
If
want
there
to
is
see
some more
the
to know, that'd be
Halcyon
great.
Illuminati. Me and Ben, either one. If you're pro Mormon, send it to Ben. If you're anti Mormon, send it to me. But like, we want to know. Yeah, it's bananas to me, and I would love to actually, go and see like all of the things that were really happening there because we know what Joseph says a little too much, gets pushed out a window or shot or both. Hiram is silenced. Many people are silenced after that and threatened. Like it's a little curious also what happens to Joseph's youngest son, who we never hear about, this David Smith. Like, what the heck happened with that?
Hmm.
Did they drive him crazy on purpose or was she protecting him, putting him in those places? Like, I wonder all of that.
Sure.
What was happening? What was happening there? We don't know. They
Yeah.
just hide everything. So, I don't know. I mean, this whole thing with Dallin, it's interesting because of his connects, right? His
Yeah.
3-letter agency connects are so strong. Like, whoa.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and to me, there's even more that it's important to understand. This is why I talk about conspiracy, is because when we fall for the character that is created, we don't understand what's going on, and we can't take action that's effective to fix the situation. And so when I say that Dallin H Oaks of being a hardliner is a character that is created, and not the actual scenario, not actually what's going on, I think it's important for people to understand. And another example of that is the publication dialogue, very amongst ex-Mos and anti-Mos and Mormons of all stripes. It's something that is well known, but it's not. Dialogue is not known for being this like fair or farms, right? Of being this apologetic, institution that defends whatever their church does. It's actually got a history of being where things that are controversial stem from, and that things that are used by ex-Mos and anti-Mos to get people upset with the church. But who was on
Yes.
the board of directors for Dialogue when it was first created? Dallin H Oaks.
Mm.
And so this idea that he's a hardliner trying to protect the church's image, I think that the record shows that he is a character that does one thing in public, and then behind the scenes, as board of directors of this publication, he is there to move the church, LDS Inc, into a direction that is something that real hardliners, would not appreciate and like.
Right. Right. And does he have connections with David M. Kennedy? Because he's like one of my very favorite people to talk about.
I'm sure he did. I haven't found that specifically. I should have looked that one up, but I don't know
Yeah,
specifically.
no, you're good. I just like it because I do the Mormon Mafia. And for those that don't know, David M. Kennedy, whoo, he's a good one. He goes into the Vatican and he has the same banker Sindona as the Vatican, the Pope's banker. And then who else has that banker? Onassis, one of the most
Mm-hmm.
powerful men in the world back then. And then they've got Howard Hughes in their pocket anyway. So it just really makes you look at things and step back and go, ooh, how much were they controlling of the actual United States back then?
Right.
Oof. Yeah,
Well,
scary
and David
kinda.
M. Kennedy, it's an important name to understand within Mormonism, because there's the David M. Kennedy Institute on Politics at BYU, and the Council on Foreign Relations lists them as an official affiliate organization. And so it's not like there's these odd connections of so and so's third cousin's uncle's aunt's dog was doing. No, this is direct affiliation.
And then we've got people that are actually involved when we get to, you've already mentioned, I believe, Garrett Gong, and
Right.
there's another one, Huntsman, of course,
Right.
who have been in different things where they don't add up, right? Like, okay, one doesn't mesh with the other. What's happening here?
Right.
Let alone Heber J. Grant's godfather. Well, I know he's not, whatever you call it. I don't know. Father figure. We'll say father
Figure. There
figure.
you go.
Okay. Yeah. And then we've got the Bambergers who nobody wants to talk about at all. And I'm just like, okay, what's going on with that? Right? Like, and the railroads
Yeah.
and Stanford. Yikes. That's a whole rabbit hole. I mean, I don't know. Either Brigham Young was, complacent or he was overtaken. And I don't know which one of those two things happened. I just know some things happened, at
Yeah.
that time. And so kind of scary when it goes into the Vatican. Anytime we bring in the Jesuits, let's get real. Let's get real
Right.
here. Oh my gosh. Like, want to talk about secret societies? Like, you thought it was bad before? Welcome to the next level. You've now graduated. So, I mean, you've proven, and we have an upcoming show. Actually, you guys, it will be released probably on the 2nd, all about Skull and Bones. You'll get your full fill of that because he's also written some stuff about that as well. And he's one of the few people I've ever seen mention God be. I don't know that have you ever seen anybody talk about him other than you?
No.
I mean, except after the fact, like people that know you, yes, me,
Right.
Justin, people, but like I have never heard this before I found you.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Godby, like, to me, he is the most influential person in LDS history, and nobody knows about him.
And he runs this crazy group that I found in this stupid old book, and it's called the Sevens. And if you guys look up the significance of that name, it is really creepy, Illuminati wise. Like the Sevens, it's something else.
Yeah.
So I think there was a lot going on there, and clearly he had beef with Brigham later. Like there, that was not a good
But he married, and he
situation.
married one of Brigham's daughters. But yeah, he fought Brigham Young tooth and nail behind the scenes. He was a part of a secret group of elders that were working to undermine the church from within. And then he gets excommunicated. But after his excommunication, Heber J. Grant says that he is the most faithful man he ever knew. As a member of the Quorum of the 12, he's saying this excommunicated guy is the most faithful man he ever knew. So, but we don't know anything about him.
All I know is he was one of the Sevens, but I am on your hot trail, Mr. Godby. I'm looking for
When I say we
you.
don't know anything about him, I mean like
Yeah.
your
No,
average
it's
member
true.
of the church. Yeah.
No, it's true. We don't. And, he goes on to form the Alta Club, which you and I spoke a
No,
lot
he didn't form
about.
the Alta
And
Club. He didn't
oh, he
form it,
didn't?
but he was there.
Oh, he was there. Okay. Who?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember who formed it.
It
Maybe
was a bunch of people. It was these groups. It was made up of the leaders of these two other groups. One was called the Gentile League, and one was called the Loyal League.
Oh, the
And
Gentile League. That's right.
they were in your face. You have this Judge William Hayden was like, if our program to get rid of the political kingdom of God in Utah is opposed, there will be blood in the streets. And so, to me, I compare that to Fabianism versus straight up communism, where you've got the first two groups are your straight up communist, violent in the street types. Whereas, and then they say, okay, well, that's not very effective. Let's take this calm, peaceful, boil the frog approach, and that's when they formed the Alta Club. And so
That's
you've got
right. That's right.
so
That's where the French consulate stayed during the Olympics.
oh,
I had to look it up. I was like finding stuff about the Alta. That was just some random thing, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting."
well, and
But
where did John Huntsman announce it when he ran for president? Where did he make his announcement? At the Alta
there you
Club.
go.
And in
There
my
you
book
go.
Invasion, I show all kinds of different things that the church, LDS Inc. did, where that would change you would see your staunch, hardcore church member would be against the positions that the church started to change and shift towards. All started with meetings at the Alta Club.
Yes. Yep. Isn't that wild? I mean, I don't know what Joseph did know, but clearly he knew some things. He was trying. He really was trying to get that out there before it went to the level it is. And at this point, um, yeah, I don't know. Infiltration took place, and people always wanted to talk about like Utah, but I'm like, hold on. We got the Romneys headed to Mexico. We got people headed to Canada, including the Macs. We've
And
got,
Romney's to Michigan.
Scousins, right?
Michigan
Michigan.
again.
We've got
Isn't that what?
Skousen. Do you know
Yep.
Skousen's nephew is the first missionary that went to El Salvador when that opened up? Like all this stuff we've got, and you can just see it spider, right? And England and Russia. That one blew me away. You know about that? Orson Hyde? They went to Russia. They went to Russia early on, which is a little concerning, but I'm just saying, I don't know. It just seems sketchy, let alone he went to Israel and dedicates a plot at the Mount of Olives, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints before the Balfour Declaration, which, by the way, people, you might want to look at the governmental implication of claiming a land, sticking your flag there, and saying a dedicatory prayer. We got an issue there, and I think they know it. I mean, it would make a lot of sense why the church always says Israel, Israel, since I was a kid, always, we have to. I always thought, I wonder why, and it's pushed. It's pushed.
Well, even
and
that's
pushed
changed over time of what that meant. So, you have this today in many Christian churches, it's referred to as replacement theology, where as we are real Israel, and then Judah, the tribe of Judah that's in the United Nations created country of Israel is not really Israel. That
Right. Right. Yep. Yep. It's everything is it's upside down world, right? We're a
right.
history of people with amnesia. So we can't figure I mean, we try our best. I feel like there's those of us that really do try, right?
Hmm.
But at the same time, it makes it hard. Somebody is mentioning here about Adnan Khashoggi. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, we know, well, a lot about him. Mhm. Him and Onassis and the ties with Howard Hughes are just fascinating with the Mormon Mafia, not the Mormon Church, the Mormon Mafia, right? I mean, Khashoggi, yes, the Mormon Church, but I don't know if you wanna say anything on that, but you don't have
Um,
to. You're like,
don't know
"Nah."
a lot. I actually
Justin
don't know a
does
whole
a
lot
good
about him.
Oh, Justin does a little bit about that, and
Oh,
I
cool.
went down that little rabbit hole, and it's woo with the triad center, and it goes into all that stuff. But it's very interesting,
Hmm.
we just keep seeing this come up time and time again. But the Illuminati went away, but yet the Illuminati keeps coming up, and I'm like, what really happened to the Illuminati? Does anybody know? It didn't. Nobody got killed. Nobody got hurt. He just Wysop just went and lived in a castle till he died, man. He was still
Right.
doing all his little crap he was doing. Like, let's be realistic. Does anything go away like that? Do
Yeah.
plotters ever stop plotting if they don't get in trouble or locked up or dead? You know,
Well, I mean, you could look
I
at
hate
Russia, right? You look at Vladimir Putin. Like, what was he before the fall of the Soviet Union? KGB. I mean, these communism didn't just go away. The Illuminati didn't just go away. It's just people just change his name. The Illuminati goes to the Jacobins, then it goes to the Carbonari, and then it goes to Black Hand, and and then they sprout out where they create new organizations that are doing the exact same things, and so they look like they're bigger than they are. Like, you look at these groups that are promoting this globalist agenda, and you look at who the sponsors are of all these groups. It's all incestuous. You'll see the same names on every single website. They're all sponsors of each other's
Partners
movements.
group.
It's all fake.
Partners group is my favorite.
It goes to the in Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which was dedicated to Satan. Is they say you have to make yourself look bigger than you are, and so they make
Yes.
themselves look huge by creating all these groups and having all of each other, endorse each other. It's all just garbage. It's all fake,
Yep.
astroturf.
Yep. But they all have an agenda that they're working toward, and they all pretend like they hate each other. And it's
Right.
kind of like, I think you just said this the last time we came on. It's like wrestling, right?
Yeah. Oh
World
yeah.
Wrestling
WWF all over.
Federation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, that is such a wonderful way to put that because honestly, I think that's accurate. Like, look at the situation there, right? They go have a beer after the show. It's a
Hmm.
show. Are you not entertained, folks?
Hmm.
Are you not? And that's the thing. And people have the hardest time saying, well, I can't believe that so and so would work with so and so because so and so. I'm like, look, follow their money and see if they work together on
Yeah.
that level. And then you might
Yeah.
know some stuff. So,
Yep.
without giving away all the juicy bits on your book about Dallin H Oaks, what would you think is one of the most important things to share with us that isn't the most like the one you want hidden so that, they'll go get this because they should?
It's all just like a accumulation of effects, right? It's not just one thing as the smoking gun. It's the accumulation of smoking guns, basically. And just like I've said this before, of communism isn't the end goal. And same with Dallin H Oaks being involved with communist individuals, communist programs, and communist ideology isn't because I think he's a rabid communist. It's the same thing. We go back to the 60s where the communists would set up all of these groups, or not the communists, the globalists, the international conspiracy would set up these groups and work with communists to be able to get the bigger agenda through. And to me, this is best illustrated in 1974, where as president of BYU, who does Dallin H Oaks invite to speak to the students, to encourage them to support the New World Order? He invites Nelson Rockefeller to speak to the students and tell them that we've got to work with, he says, quote, we've got to work with the communist nations. They have different philosophies, but we have general common objectives, end of quote. And so they are working together for the common objectives. And so they will say things like Black Lives Matter is an eternal principle. They will, invite these people like to speak at BYU, to tell the students to promote the New World Order specifically. And so because that is the greater agenda, and if you look at all of the pieces of the puzzle put together, there's this big picture. And so we start to understand why certain things are happening that seem to go against the church's positions, long held positions, whereas they start to change over years. Is it the continuing restoration? Is it continuing revelation? Or is it a merging with the New World Order and being good global citizens?
Or is it the fact that Nelson Rockefeller is the sixth cousin, 3 times removed of the grandson of Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is related to Deacon Gates, which is Lydia Gates, whose grandma is Joseph Smith's grandma. So I'm like, oh, and if you guys look it up, he's related to Joseph Smith
Yeah.
and Nelson Rockefeller are related. So when they say this isn't bloodlines, my eye, it isn't bloodlines, because you have to have a certain bloodline for some of these places to even get in these societies.
Sure.
That's just the truth of the matter. Not all, right? Some are along the way and some are, strictly bloodlines, but it's like that with royalty too. It always has been,
Mm-hmm.
and they definitely, you mentioned the Jacobins, and one book I was reading, I thought, this is so weird, because I was reading about Joseph Smith's posterity that did come over on the Mayflower, and they said something about having to hide from the queen. And I thought, why would they have to hide from the queen? What's happening? And then I talked to this guy, David Livingston, and he talks about all these secret societies and the Rosicrucians and all these different things that were happening at the time, and about how some of them had to hide from the queen. And I thought, oh, there it is. Okay. Because I was so confused. I was like, what do you mean? Why is this happening? Right. But we know they're not hiding from the queen anymore, because, the crown owns Rio Tinto, Kennecott, the copper mine.
And the people that manage Kennecott in Utah, at one time they were the leaders of the Alta Club that we mentioned earlier, and they're a member of a secret society called the Sovereign Order of St. John of Jerusalem, which is an offshoot, which is a secreter society, or a sub-secret society out of the Knights of Malta. And so, it's just, the connections are pretty wild.
Right. And it goes back to almost royalty every time, which is why I dare say, and they'll tell you this now, the geneticist, I can't remember his name right now because it's a big, long name. So I apologize. I'll correct it later. But he did the genetics for Joseph Smith. Okay. He went and collected all these genetics from the family members and everybody. And he has proved that he has a very rare profile that doesn't happen a whole lot. And it's like R1, B1, something, something, something. And I've looked at this whole study, and he comes from this bloodline in Ireland called the Nile of the Nine, which is a royal bloodline. And there's very few people that come from this. And I think that's why the LDS community was so excited for those in the know when the one show came out. What is it? The Holy Grail one.
Oh, right.
With Da Vinci, the Da Vinci
Dan
Code.
Brown, yeah.
Do you remember that? Do you remember how wild up they all got? And then Brown actually wrote a book called Between Mormons and Masons, and it kind of got shadow banned. And
Dan Brown wrote that?
Yes. It's an older one. There's 2 versions. Somebody else wrote one. It's upstairs. It's more recent. And then he had wrote one previously, and he renamed it something else because it gave him so much trouble. They did not like it. Yeah. So, I think the
I remember
there was another book
that some BYU professors put out that were trying to poo-poo at that. Oh, that's, this idea that Jesus was married is not something that Mormons believe. I'm like, they were just like totally poo-pooing everything that early church leaders said about that idea, because right now you have in LDS Inc. this drive and this push to normalize and to Protestantize Mormonism into mainstream ideologies. And that's a big part of it.
Yes. And ultimately, what do we get at every end of the tunnel? We get secret societies, which is fascinating to me. And every time somebody starts talking about it, something bad happens. I think that's why Strang got silenced. I mean, he got shot, like,
Yeah, he was killed. Yeah.
yeah, like just out of nowhere. And that's, I'm related to the Strangites, which is so weird because I didn't even know. Like
Oh
I
wow.
always knew I was from the Huntington line. I knew that one. But my grandpa's family's like from back east area and some of the south. And anyway, I guess the wife that dressed up like a man, that was
Hmm.
my grandpa's like great great grandma or something. And I
Oh
was
wow.
like, you've got to be kidding me. And I never knew because I didn't know anything about that until later,
Right.
and I didn't even know what the Strangites were as a normal Mormon. Did you? Like before you went down that
Not
rabbit
growing up.
hole?
Growing up until I was an adult, I thought it
Yeah.
was RLDS versus LDS, and that was all there was to it. And then in my early 20s, I started to learn about all of the people that claimed authority after the martyrdom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then it splits into 1,000 pieces, and you see some curious things, even with spiritualism. The lady from Stanford, she funded Stanford. She's called the mother of Stanford. Well, her last name is very interesting. Her before married last name. It's a Mormon last name. I can't remember if she was a Huntington or it was one of those main ones. And she
Hmm.
undersells to Brigham upon the death of her husband for a very cheap price on the rest of the railroad at a rapid, exchange, and nobody could figure out why. And I'm like, I know why. That's her family. Let's get real somehow, along. But that's what happened. Who settled the West? The Mormons did. There'd be no West without the Mormons. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
There wouldn't be. Or it would have been severely delayed at least. I'll say
Oh,
that.
there definitely
But
wouldn't be any. There wouldn't be any stops in the Intermountains, right? You'd go go straight on to California.
oh, for sure. And we just see it time and time again. And I'm just like, well, of course it makes sense because, we've got William, Joseph's brother, headed out this area. His brother,
Hmm.
his children become severely important. They worked with the Mormon mob out in Vegas with E. Perry Thomas,
Hmm.
the Max, once again. I mean, it's just fascinating. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, why would that happen? Like the Max are there, William's kid is there, like all these people are there, and it just doesn't seem like it doesn't make sense on the surface till you dig just a little bit further because they changed
Right.
their religion. That particular one, that was a really good friend, that was a Mac. They say they're not related. I've got to do more research. He's Jewish. He's not Mormon. And the lady, she was a spiritualist. She's not Mormon. But what was Lucy's brother? He was a seeker, Jason Mack, and he disappears into the night. He
Hmm.
just disappears. He's this reverend, he's on fire for the Lord, and he disappears to Canada. And it's a whole rabbit hole, let me tell you guys. Like there's been a couple people pull it apart, but you know what? The like professional JST or whatever, they buy up these papers, you can't just access them.
Right.
And so you have to have like some reasoning. So I just think it's fascinating, and this infiltration of the Native Americans, on all levels, including in Pontiac and the Micmac. It's very interesting what happened there. Yes. And so old world, to your point, 100%.
Yeah.
To your point, 100%. So I think that we have to look at this because they procured their land by having children with these women in many instances, especially in Pontiac. So I'm doing like I said, a whole history dive. It'll be called Unfiltered Mormonism. I'm going to be much more straight to the history and less commentary on Heidi's thoughts of Mormonism, because I want like regular Mormons to watch it without
Yeah.
like weirdness. So that's coming first of the year. And I just think that that's super important. And Oaks, like where does his family line go back to? Have you studied there?
Well, Harris, his middle name goes Martin Harris as part of
Oh,
that.
Harris. That's right. That's right. Oh, yes. So, for people that don't know who Martin Harris is, but you did see South Park, he's the dumb, 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 dumb guy. He But his wife was smart, so smart, smart, smart. So, he's got half and half in there. Oh, poor Martin Harris. He thought God was a deer once.
Oh well.
Oh
Jump out of
boy.
Babylon
Yeah.
makes the comment right there. Read proofs of a conspiracy, which I totally agree. But I also recommend memoirs illustrating the history of Jacobinism as well. Both of those books together are just must reads to understand that stuff.
Amazing. For people that don't know, will you tell them that author on that book
Burrell.
you're holding? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
A.
So,
Burrell.
and so for you at this point in time in your life, where you do know these things and you've done the studying and you've seen the papers. I've got a friend that he named his podcast, We've Read the Documents. And I'm like, that sounds like you. That sounds like you. Yeah. Where do you fall on where LDS Inc. is to this day? Like
Oh wow,
now, what
that's
trouble
really
we're in.
yeah. I always have a hard time with that one just because I don't want to say, oh, I did this thing because Ben said so. You know what I mean? And so
I'm talking about LDS Inc., not
yeah.
LDS
Oh, so yeah, I
Church.
don't. So I
Yeah.
think LDS Inc. itself is not what it claims to be, but I believe in Mormonism.
But LDS Inc. is, shadow government almost. It's like,
Correct.
for me, what I think anyway. That's not what he said. But I mean, we do see things, even with the Kirk foundations. And oh my gosh, that gets into a whole, Candace
Yeah.
Owens. I don't know. You've been watching that stuff. Oh boy, we've been pulling that apart a little before her, but as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very strange. So I just feel like they had a plan, right? They
Hmm.
went through with that plan by procuring land one way or another in this area, and especially mining, because Godby owned a bunch of silver mining
Yep.
before, and he sold it to who? The crown. The crown. The
Well,
crown
he
owned.
was definitely he wanted to destroy everything that Brigham Young was doing. And so he made a deal with the federal government. You had Vice President Colfax come to Utah. This is in my book Invasion, and
Yes.
says, the Colfax comes and says, should we do another invasion of Utah like Johnson's army? And Godby's like, no, 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 no. Just fund my efforts to undermine things from within. I will get rid of this kingdom of God. I will get rid of the economic order of heaven, and I will merge us with you guys, and we will be all economically merged. And that's the direction we're going to go. And so that's why you see this staunch, this just really, you go 1895 basically onward, and it's a completely different institution than it was previously. I mean, that's when it starts to slowly go, but then you go 1920, and it's just like this hard line of, because that's when Heber J. Grant, Godby's godson, for lack of a better word, gets in charge. And so you start to see Godby's mindset, ideology start to be implemented in amongst leadership. And that's why it was Grant that brought Wilford Woodruff to the Bohemian Club in the 90s to get money from the
Yes.
bankers, and
And
you know
then he died.
and then
Then he
Woodruff dies
died,
there.
like, creepily.
So and
Um,
was he
yeah.
murdered? Was he an old man that just died? All kinds of, we don't know.
Mm, it's interesting how he
Exhume the grave.
dies. Yes, they do that anyway all the time. Why not? Let's make some more black sticks. Just kidding. But I don't understand why people have a hard time looking at it, because we see, like, anybody that pulls apart, like even some of the prophets that we've had back in the day, they
Yeah.
did try. Some of them tried, and what were they
Yeah.
labeled?
Oh,
They were heretics, right?
yeah. Well, and there's to this day, right? There's presidents of the church that you can mock or be critical of as an active member in Sunday school, primary, not primary, but Sunday school, priesthood, and it's okay. Whereas other leaders, if you were to do that to Dallin H Oaks, you'd be in trouble. But if you do that to Benson or Brigham Young, then that's okay. Those guys were kooks, and we should ignore them anyways.
Right, but they're still doing the same. Who was Brigham Young working with that they're honoring? Oh, wait. Robert E. Lee. How about Robert E. Lee? I want to answer the question in class, right? Robert E. Lee Um, and he was working with who else? The Canadians. We've got some Canada people here in the chat. He was working with Canada.
Hmm.
That's odd.
Trying
That's
to find my
very
book.
odd. Yeah.
So
Like
there's this book that BYU produced about Godby, and it says everything that I'm saying. That's where a lot of I found the source documents that they, so they would go through the book and then they would say, here's the source. And so I would go to the source and find the original source that's mentioned. And the book's called Wayward Saints, and it's published by BYU. And so everything that I'm saying about Godby and Grant is something that is also said by BYU professors. So this isn't like some, guy that has an axe to grind against the church. This is what the church
he's not like
institution
Heidi.
is saying themselves.
Just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like Heidi.
Right.
The Wayward Saints. And he started his own faction. They became Godbyites.
Right.
And you mentioned this. Like and how is it that we know so little about him when he was the one that brought the Federal Reserve here? How? Right. How is that possible? Like that is weird, really. Yeah. And when we look at that, what did they do when they opened the banks though? They opened it with their wives. The wives were the ones that opened the accounts, not the men, the wives. And why is that? And if you go look at I was noticing this, all the billionaire list for Utah right now, they're women. And I was like, that's a little sussy to me. But okay, cool. Like cool women power. I'm not a feminist, so I'm like, oh well, that's cool. But like, okay, if it's a guy too, like whoever worked the hardest, like you don't get a participation trophy from me. Sorry. Like, whoever was the one, that's it. Whether it be a male or female, I don't care, And I'm just like, okay, well, this is all stuff that we need to look at because if they are hiding it with women, right? That's interesting when we get into Romney and women are falling off buildings. That's all,
Well, and you look at the Millers, right? Yeah. The Miller family in Utah. So you got Larry Miller, who was, he was black. He was literally, and this isn't like just a figure of speech. He was literally blackballed from the Alta Club. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Larry Miller himself, but he was blackballed from the Alta Club. But as soon as he dies and his wife takes over, all of their stuff starts to completely, it does shift a lot towards what's going on. And now she's working hand in hand with the establishment within the state. Because the Alta Club's records are secret, I don't know if she's a member now that her husband has died, but it is definitely clear that their behavior as an institution has changed, where you have their, dinosaur museum in Lehigh, who does all of the globalist stuff, anti-Christian stuff down there. Even though their foundation was the biggest funders of the Joseph Smith paper project. And so, but that was before he died. And so it's just very interesting how you talk about women being, the richest people in Utah. I would say Gail Miller is one of the richest women in Utah and what she's done since her husband's death.
Yes. It's weird. I just think that it's very strange when we see that they were using the women then to open up with their money because the women weren't working. This was not a time frame when that was happening. So clearly it was, organized, period. And then we get all these people that are intricate and involved in what? With the Mormon church, feminism, right. Fantastically strange. So we're oppressing some, rising others, and it all makes sense to the agenda, which is clearly playing out. I mean, like really, which is sad because I don't think that women and men need to have a certain place in general, but like, come on, we need to work together. We're supposed to all be a team. And, I don't think we need to be better than men to just be good. Like what is that about?
Right.
Like, I love my husband. I'm not upset about if he's doing well. Like I can do well, but there's a lot of things he can do that I can't do. Sorry. Good. If I need the water jug replaced at home, like I'm not picking that thing up. Like it's just, it's physics. Let's be realistic. And there's
You're
a
not
lot
saying
of
anything you can do, I can do better.
Right. No, because it's silly because he can't do a lot of things that I can do. He
Sure.
certainly can't multitask, you know? So I'm like, okay, like I'll do that. And we just switch. And isn't that funny? That's kind of how we're made. But whatever.
Yeah.
That's just reality. And I think that at the end of the day, there's too much focus on it, to be quite frank. It
Yeah.
just took women out of the home, and then children were reared by who? Schools.
The
And where
government.
did they say that they were going to infiltrate to make people be communists? School. In
Yeah.
school. I mean, they won in a little bit, a little bit. I hate to say that, but it doesn't mean
Yeah.
we roll over. Doesn't mean that's what we do. You
Right.
know, we fight back.
We just stop going on the defense. We start going the offense because that's the only way we're going to gain ground back.
100%. Yep, we have to. But to do that, to your point, which is very uncomfortable for LDS people, and this is where I'm going to address them directly, like true blue LDS people, find the people that are chanting for your side, because we're not all against you. Some of us want to work side by side for the
Mhm.
same thing at the end of the day, and we can agree to disagree on a whole lot.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to talk to Ben about converting tomorrow, and he's not trying to baptize me yesterday. Like, let's be realistic. Yeah, we've got to be realistic and try to stop the separation, whether it be race, color, creed, nationalities, all these things, male, female, all this stuff is just trying to separate you. That's it.
The division.
Yes,
Because then you're
because
not
we're a
fighting the
lot
people that
bigger.
are causing the division.
Yep, we're a lot bigger than they are. If we all stand up,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
They're terrified of that one. Terrified. So, oppressors keep oppressing. And as long as we just say it doesn't matter, I guess it doesn't. We stay fat, happy, and high. That's why they're passing all the bills they're passing.
Mhm.
I don't disagree with it for people that need it or in pain or whatever, but you have to look at the whole picture. How many people become addicts for certain other things? How many people have other problems? How many people go into psychosis? I work there. I see it. I'm a mental health nurse. And that means I'm working with addicts, and we see it and see it and see it. But a lot of that is fueled in despair. That
Yeah.
is the sad part. So that despair is something we can all work together, I think. And this is the time
Yeah.
of year to do that, you know? So, yeah, I think LDS Inc. and the Jesuit Inc. and all the inks can go suck it. Like, I don't think any of them are good. But I don't think that of the people, the body of any of those churches, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good people there, a lot of good people there. So that's not our point today. So,
Yep.
Dallin Oaks, we barely skimmed the surface for people to understand. You guys need to get the book. He was involved in so many three-letter activities. I don't,
Yeah.
drug smuggle. Like, I mean, it gets wild. It's not boring. We'll say that much. Right?
Yep.
It's a wild ride. It's a wild 70s woo-woo ride. That's for sure. And so you don't want to miss it. Will you let people know where to find everything and anything else
Yeah.
we
You
may
can
have
get it
missed before?
fastest. You can get the book fastest at Amazon or Barnes and Noble. But you can also order it from our website, treeoflibertysociety.com. Right now, we're doing end of year fundraiser where if you go and to the treeoflibertysociety.com, you click on donate. We have a list of all of our books. For a donation of your choice, we will give you any of those books, an ebook version or an MP3 version if we have it available of any of our books right now. If you go to our website, so if you'd like to support our work and help us to continue to do the things that we do, I'd appreciate you going there, and we give you that special gift for your support.
Absolutely. And that would be wonderful. It's obviously the time of year for giving. He's doing that and stepping up with that. So you guys got to check it out. Also, Ben has a whole bunch of stuff out there. We've got one coming out on the 2nd. And so you just need to go check all of those things out, because we are going to go into where the skull and bones, all those things. It looks like he was pulled out, so he might be rejoining. Hopefully, in just a second, he may have lost connection there. So I just want everybody to know that 100% you have to be against the corporations. We have to take back America, whether that looks like, little things that don't matter, it turns into big things. It just does. There's no other way for us to do it, because if we don't start changing what we can, we'll never end up changing anything. And so obviously we've got to get to that point. So, and I don't know, Ben got pulled out. I don't know if he'll be rejoining. It looks like it's not letting him. So I am going to plug one more time for him. He is at Tree of Liberty. Ben McClintock is his name. We have already done another show together, and that is an amazing show. Check that one out on here about the Alfalfa Club, the most secret society you've never heard about, and as well as one coming up on Skull and Bones that is on the 2nd. And so that way you guys have something to look forward to there, as this is my last stream of the year. I appreciate everybody so much. I really want to tell you guys, everybody that sent me information, everybody that's taken time to comment, everybody that's done anything to help support me, my supporters that do Patreon, I just can't express enough gratefulness. And I really am thankful for what you guys do, because I am able to buy the books that I cannot get just anywhere. In fact, my Buy Me a Coffee is called Buy Me a Book. So that way I can continue what I'm doing. Look forward to Unfiltered Mormon History at the first part of the year. Happy New Year, everybody. I'll be working, so that's why this is a little bit early. Otherwise, I would have joined on one on like more festive time of the year on the actual day, but bummer for me. I got to work. So I'm sure Ben can't rejoin. It looks like he's having a hard time rejoining. So once again, check out his book on Dallin H Oaks, All the Exposure of the Current Prophet. You won't want to miss it. I promise you. Ben goes deep in the research. He knows a thing or two about a thing or two, really. And JJ Vance does a show about Cocaine Bob Evans, and that's also it's all applicable. So that way you guys can see what's going on out there. Of course, like I said, we're a history with amnesia. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. As for me, Unfiltered Rise here. I appreciate you guys once again. I do want to mention one more thing. I recategorized all of my Spotify episodes so that if you guys want to see certain things, they're all in categories now. So like Unfiltered Mormonism, Unfiltered History, Unfiltered Esoterics, all this stuff. I tried to make it a little more streamlined since I have a lot of guests on, and a lot of people were saying, you don't always talk about Mormonism, and that's what I want to know about. So that's how we're doing it. Also, stay tuned. Monthly Mormon Monday. We're going to be coming at you soon. Me and Thomas for another show. Excited for that. And Ben will be on Monthly Mormon Monday as well. So, with that, you guys, I appreciate you so much. And I hope you have a most wonderful, blessed new year. Happy New Year, everybody.